Welcome, welcome. We're so excited that you're here today. My name is Tamara Balis. I am the head of school here, and this is one of my favorite topics. If you've ever caught me on the playground or an event and started talking to me about Montessori education, you probably did not escape and get to talk to anybody else. So I'm so happy you're here today. And this is a really important topic, right? Because what we're talking about is how we actually raise our children into the world, okay? And today, this day for your child is the most important day, without a doubt. I am not one of these people who's looking forward so much that they're struggling and having this horrible experience today because you're gonna go to, in 12 years you're gonna be X, right? But we also have to be conscious that it's our job to raise world citizens. It's our job to have our children be prepared to go into the world in a way that really works. And you probably are, I'm sure you're seeing what I'm seeing, which is more and more information coming out about adolescents going to college and not being prepared, and the rates of medication for college students. And part of what it tells us is something's not working, right? We need to take a look. And what we find is with Montessori, and this is actually proven through research, with Montessori principles in place, the adolescents going to college with this foundation are much, much, much stronger. So, and able to really manage those challenges of life. All right, so why a Montessori home? So we are working with children. Those of you who have children under the age of 3, your children have what we call an unconscious absorbent mind, okay? They are taking in everything unconsciously, right? They are in a constant state of upload, which means everything in the environment they are taking in. Okay, so I want that really you to think about that. That means the way that you talk to your spouse when you get home and you just had a hard day, they're downloading, okay? The way that you call them when you call them for the 6th time, they're taking in. That's how we talk to each other. They're taking in how you set the table. They're taking in the way you clean up, right? All of it is being absorbed, right? And between the ages of 0 and 6, they have more possible neural pathways, right, than the rest of their life combined, right? They are literally a sponge, literally. And that lasts until they're 6. Now, at the age of 3, they become conscious of their mind. They actually start to have a conscious absorbent mind. They actually know that they're learning. They know that they're growing. They know that they're self-constructing, if you use that term, okay? So part of why we set up a Montessori home is because they're absorbing the environment. And you want your environment to be an environment that really supports and develops the person that you want to grow them into, right? So you want to make sure that your child has a home that offers worthy challenges. I cannot say this enough. The current research shows that the way children build self-confidence is through overcoming worthy challenges. That's it. They do not get confidence from us praising them, good job, none of that. Actually, good job is actually hard. They don't actually, that actually takes away, because then whatever they're doing becomes about you, and they start to seek your approval. I want you to know I have a 14-year-old now. I'm so proud of her. And so I've raised her with these concepts. So she's been on this kick lately where every time I say, wow, you did that? She's like, Mom, stop praising me. I'm going to get used to it, and then I'm going to be dependent on it. I'm like, oh my gosh, child. But they do take that in, right? Like she's used to me saying, you did that. How do you feel about it? And now she's off at high school and I'm gushing and she's like, nah, right? So anyway, so you want to make sure that your home is offering worthy challenges. Think about the last time that your child had a worthy challenge. Okay, where are the areas that you're offering worthy challenges to your child right now, right? And the reason I do this, first of all, it's Montessori, right? You have to stimulate the brain. If I just talk at you, you won't remember. If you do the talking, if you become engaged in this way, you will take more out of the class, okay? All right, so because I want you to know, I don't know about you in your professions, but I sweated a lot. Like I work hard, right? Like I'm all the time having to stretch and do things that are uncomfortable, right? And I think anybody who's working in something that you're passionate about, you bring that to the conversation. How are they going to learn that if they're never uncomfortable? If they're never struggling, right? Important because part of what we lack culturally is time, right? Let's be clear, we are maxed out. And one of the things that I'm a strong advocate for is protecting your weekends. Saying no a lot on the weekends to actually allow time to be home so you have time to do these things. So you're not trying to fit in baking or sawing or a lesson, and we'll talk about how to give a lesson today during the week when you're, right? Because a lot of us are in homes where you have, if either you have a single parent or you have two working parents, and it's a lot, right? So thinking about how to carve out time to give the gift to your child that they can actually go through that process. And right, so where does that fit for you? And it may, for you, you may have to consider the values of your family and what comes first, right? At one point, I stopped, now I hope my mother-in-law never listens to this, but I stopped saying yes to going away for the holidays. So now we have 2 weeks that at the holidays, I know I'm home, I'm the Montessori person in our house, right? So we have this protected time, and you know, one year they both decided they wanted to sew a doll, right? So they, from start to finish, so we went to the factory, like all of that, and that's not something I have time for on a regular basis. So thinking about how do you build that in for yourself. I highly recommend for all adults to have a listening partner, or you can call it an empathy buddy. So that because the truth is that we as adults cannot offer our children patience and empathy from our empathy bucket if it's not full. And most of us go through life not really having somebody to just listen to us and hold the space, and it cannot be a spouse, okay? It can't, because sometimes you actually have to talk about them, right? Like, I mean, let's be honest, okay? No offense, Phil, but like, you know, like, sometimes it's them, right? And so you need a place, a safe place, no judgment, no criticism, that you have to put that, where they're not going to coach you, they're not going to think they know better, they're not going to tell you how to fix it, they're just going to listen. I have a 7:30 a.m. call every Sunday morning. I go for a walk, I spend a half an hour, I go blah, 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 blah. Oh, I feel so much better. And my friend goes blah, 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 blah. She's not a parent here, like we're not, so that way I have my empathy bucket filled. And when I come home, I am a very happy person. So my family loves my empathy calls, right? So that's one thing, is like to start looking at how you fill that for yourself, because there's no way to call on something when we are maxed out. It's just not like you're asking to pull on something that's just not there. Does that make sense? Okay. And everybody has that. Like, it's not just you. We've discovered that both my girls need 10 minutes. They get out of their beds and then they go in and they flop on my bed, which is made at this point, but they flop on the bed and they groan about being tired and whatever, and then they're up and then they go about their day. And I'm not going to try to take, right? That's their process. And we have a time that we need to be out of the house. Now, When they're 2, that time doesn't compute. But starting about 3 and a half, they can actually be accountable to being ready. Let's be clear, like that's okay. You can have a clock that they can see, and they go out, they leave in whatever they're wearing. Right? That's okay. There's no make wrong in it. That's the difference. Like they're going to go out, and I had my youngest was really struggling with being ready, and I was like, I have all this pressure on her to look a certain way by the time we get out of the house, right? And so I just got clear with her, we have to leave at X time. How much time? We talked a lot about what does she need, what's her process. She has to contribute, she has to participate in lunches, so there's a lot of requirements. And so she ended up coming to school in her pajamas. And it was interesting because for her, I was willing to have it every day. And I'm the head of school. I just want you to know, like people are watching, like they're not watching what your kid comes in. They're looking at me going, I see what kind of, yes, yeah, I'm walking in proudly. Yep, she's got her pajamas, right? Like, and we're not arguing. There's no fight. We're on time. And she had gone in, and when I said, okay, it's time to go, and she had gone in, and she said, I'm going to change. I was like, I'm so sorry, there's no time. She's like, well, I just have to grab one thing. And she took clothes and shoved them in her bag, and she went straight from the car into her classroom, went in the classroom and changed her clothes, and she never was not dressed again. But I also didn't make her wrong. It wasn't who said power struggle, right? Because it's the energetic exchange where it's your tone, it's not your words. It is the energetic exchange. So if you're going in and pushing and making them wrong, defiance comes out of a lack of connection. Defiance is they are not feeling connected with you. They need connection, right? Let's be really clear, because children do well if they can. People do well if they can. So they don't feel connected, they don't feel safe, there's not that piece there. That make sense? Okay? So you can have really clear, that's what happens in a Montessori classroom. There's very clear boundaries. The very clear structure, very high expectations. I mean, the toddlers in our environment are putting on their own slippers, then putting back on their own shoes. Now, we give them a lot of time to do that, right? There's no time pressure. They can take their time. It could take them 20 minutes to put on a sock, right? Completely okay. And there's no make wrong in it. We're like, oh, you're learning to put on your sock, right? Oh, you need a little bit more time. Okay. Everybody else goes out to recess. That's okay. You're taking your time. Now, if they say, I need help, we're going to help them. And this is a tip for you. You help them the minimal amount you can and have them still feel successful. If you have a child who's asking for help when they really don't need it, that's actually they're asking for connection. They're not actually asking for help. They want to be connected. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. I'm on slide 4 now. Just so you know, like, I'm gonna have to pick up the pace here. Okay. And where are we getting them? So one of the things I like people to think about is part of what's happening culturally is we want to protect them, we don't give them responsibility, and then all of a sudden they're 18, and when they haven't learned, there are so many skills that have to be learned before your child becomes 18 and goes off to college. Part of why these adolescents are going to college and they're not successful is they don't have any skills, right? I see people nodding, people who are working with these young people who have not ever had, they've never learned these skills. They've not learned how to be independent. And so we are setting them up to fail, right? So what we have to look at is, by the time they're 18, they need to be able to change a tire. They need to be able to be articulate and kind on a phone call with somebody, a customer service rep who's giving them a hard time. They need to know how to, their phone is dead and they're stranded somewhere in the middle of nowhere. What do they do? Like they have to have an incredible number of skills they have to keep themselves safe. They need to know how to handle themselves when somebody approaches them to offer them heroin, which is a huge issue now, right? Like there is an incredible, they have to have an incredible number of skills. And if you wait before you build the foundation for them, you can't fit it all in, and that's what's happening, okay? So we're building them to be these citizens of the world. So what Dr. Montessori, and this is why we start with the prepared environment, really she says the teacher's duty, first duty, but really we're their teacher, right? If we are the main teacher of our children for their lives, right? And what she's sharing is we are a part, like the environment is their teacher. The environment creates how they experience the world, right? So who is your home designed for, right? One of the things I recommend, if you have a little person, like for you, Caroline, okay, you're gonna wanna go around on your knees in your house. What is the experience of a person that's this tall in your house? Can they get up on a sofa? Are there lights that they can access? Do they have access to water? Can they feed themselves when they're hungry? Can they wash their hands? Can they get out their own clothes? Can they reach, right? Like all of those pieces, and we're going to talk about each, each part of the environment today, right? But what parts of your house, and this is another opportunity for you guys to talk to each other, but what parts of your home does your child spend time in that is not actually prepared for your child, right? Maybe there's not. Maybe you have every area of your house is prepared. Think about your bedroom. Does your child spend time in your bedroom, right? If they do, is there a spot set up for them? Do you want them in your bedroom? That's the other question. Maybe you don't want a spot. I used to have, we had tiny, tiny bathrooms in our old house. So I had a vanity in my bedroom. So when my daughter was an infant, I would get ready at the vanity. So I needed to have the vanity also prepared for her with materials, things for her to do while we were getting ready. So while I would be brushing my hair and putting on my makeup, she had a makeup brush. Not that I'm trying to promote the billion-dollar industry, but she, you know, like she had her own stuff so she could be present, right? So just think about each area of your house. Your kitchen. Is your kitchen set up for your child? How about your entryway? Can they hang up their own things? Is there a beautiful space for them to put things, right? Like that. Does that make sense? Okay. And how does your child currently navigate this part of the house? And what could you do to support your child's independence in this? Actually, I need to add a slide on doing dangerous things, right? That's really important. And safety. Right, you don't really want them to burn themselves, but in our house, you kind of, burning yourself on your, actually they joke, because my husband grew up in a restaurant, right? So he's got like all these burns on his arms. So the first burn each of my girls got, they were truly in the Balis family, right? Like, and it was a little burn, it was okay, because guess what? They've learned that they have to pay attention in life. You don't go through life thinking everything's indestructible because you've been surrounded by plastic, right? Yeah, the reason I'm so glad you're saying this, because you're not the only one thinking this, right? And this is a huge piece. We're doing the thinking for them. Their thinking will not turn on if they are never put in a situation where they actually have to use it. So they're going to count on you to keep them safe if you are the person keeping them safe. My girls now I was lucky I got to be a Montessori, and I want to be very clear, and I'll say that really clearly, I am not perfect, okay? I do not run a perfect household. My children aren't perfect. We are incredibly flawed, okay? And I want to share with you that from the time they were infants, I was very clear with them, it is your job to keep yourself safe. Okay, they were standing on the side of the pool, like I had a 9-month-old on the side of the pool. It is your job to keep yourself safe, Sia, right? And my brother-in-law was listening. He's like, really? It's her job? I was like, yeah, of course I'm watching her. And if she doesn't know it's her job, then she counts on me to keep her safe. And then what happens when I'm talking to a friend? She's not responsible. I'm the only one responsible for her safety, right? So I'll give you an example. I have a slide on the playground, by the way, just so you know. So, but when she was about she was 2 years old, we were at the playground, and my rule at the playground is you can only do the things you can get into yourself, except for the swings, right? Everything else you must be able to get onto yourself. That way, you're responsible for yourself within that, right? So by the time I stayed home with Sia until she was a year and a half, and I took her to the playground almost every day, and she would, at about 10 months, she was watching the other children go down the slide. It was a playground for 5 to 12-year-olds. You know how they have that marked? She's watching them, right? So we're swinging and she's watching them. And I will say, I'm going to do my playground slide now. Part of it is just letting them do what they want to do. You are not responsible for them having a good time at the playground. You are not responsible for entertaining them. Your job is to actually give them the ability to actually do what they want to do. That is not your checklist. Okay, now we're going to go to the slides. Now we're going to do this. I watch people. I can't go to the playground because I want to parent. I want to give parenting classes to everybody. My husband's like, no, you are not fun. I'm like, did you see that, Dad? He's not letting that son just wants to stay on the thing. Why does he have to go be on the slide? And here's the other thing. Oh, you went down the slide. Good job. Oh my God, right? Like, just zip it. Let them do what they want to do. So my daughter played with the mulch every day for a month. She sat on the ground and played with the mulch, watched the other children, okay? Then she decided she wanted to go on a slide. She's 10 months old. I have pictures of this. She went up, she crawled over. She wasn't walking yet. She went over the stairs, okay? So I just went and I spotted her. I did not touch her, okay? Spotted her. She crawled up the stairs. There was an opening. It was pretty high. It was an opening. So she came over. I stood by the opening, and she looked at the slide, and she went down face first. She never did that again. She was okay. Like, you know, she wasn't going to kill herself, right? Like, that's really the thing. Are they going to kill themselves? Are they going to break their back? No. If it's not like that, so she did it. She came down. She's like, oh. She watched another child, went back right over, and she did the slide, turned around, and she went down on her belly over and over and over, and like it was her experience. It wasn't mine. I didn't applaud her. I didn't have to acknowledge her. She had the experience completely on her own, right? How can we take that away from him? Because we want it to be our experience. The playground we want it to be about us. Now, I'm not saying you don't play with your child and enjoy them. They want to play with you and do something with you, great. Swing with them, right? But what I'm talking about is this thing, and I know you know what I'm talking about because at least you've seen it, right? Where they go, come on, now we're going to go here. Now we're going to go, and it's like this race to the next thing, and the poor child, like, just let them be in the thing they're doing. And by the way, they don't need you to be like, honey, right? Because what are you teaching them? That somebody's going to be going through life with them being, honey, I don't have anybody doing that to me at all. How disappointing is life when you get to college when nobody's going, anymore, right? Like, what are we setting up? Right? Does that make sense? Right? Like, we are setting them up to, and people say to me, my child won't play alone. Well, think about how you set them up. How much have you given them that constant influence that they have to be with you all the time? And maybe not. Maybe you have a child who really needs to be connected with you, right? That's also fine. And they do the things with you, and it's not you entertaining them. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to give you a tool from Hand in Hand that first of all, I love the Hand in Hand parenting class. I highly recommend it. It's available online. There's one starting in October in the evenings that we will run advertisements for. We don't run advertisements for any other organization, but that organization, that hand-in-hand parenting class is excellent, okay? And one of their tools is called special time. If you have a child who feels disconnected from you, is defiant, the irony is they get defiant and you say, would you like to have some special time? I've got 5 minutes for you. You set the timer on your phone, and you do whatever they want to do. In our house, there's no screens, right? And there's no food, because we're not going to go have ice cream sundaes, right? So those are the parameters, but anything else they want to, that they want to do at that time. And they're in control of that time as an individual. For you, I would do it separately with each child, right? So that they have that, and it can be 2 minutes, right? They get to control it. So last night when I was leaving the house, Christos was doing special time with Georgie, and we have created a system. So we're older parents, right? So Georgie's special time, just so you know, the first time she had special time ever, she was a queen, I was her servant, and we were having a funeral for King Christos. That's my husband. Okay? I want you to know, like, he's like, what the hell? I'm like, I don't know. This is new. I'm just, you know, but she came out of that, and we were so connected. And then for 4 months, I am not exaggerating, every time we did special time, she wanted me to chase her around the house. I want you to know I am not fast, okay? And she'd go, na 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 na, you're the slowest person in the world, and you can't catch me. Right? I'm like, oh my God, really? And the rule at special time is you have a ball doing whatever it is, because for 5 minutes you can have fun doing whatever it is, right? So it gives them the opportunity. Think about it. In life, when do they get to completely be in charge? When do they get to decide the rules? Like at one point we started playing a game, and when special time's over, it's over. She changed every rule so she won, right? Like, and that's okay. It's perfect. Part of what they say, and I believe this, children are carrying, just like we are, big emotions, right? So special time's over and there's a breakdown. That's a breakdown that needed to happen anyway. That needed to come up and out. So they're in a safe place, special time's over, oh my gosh, big upset, that's okay. You can stay with them, be with them through that. You don't have to fix it. You're just gonna love them. And then that's out of the system rather than being stuffed. One of the things that I highly recommend is to educate them as much as they're willing, right? So maybe you ask her if she'd be willing to sit and watch the video with you. So somebody else is saying it to her. Oh yeah, we have to, right? No, yeah, that's right. Well, maybe another, you know, I would have her get as much education. Like, that's part of what I do with my husband is I read to him from other authors, because of course I couldn't be an expert in this, right? It's only my field for the last 25 years. Yeah, reading it, yeah.
She said, she flipped through and she said, I have the concept already. And then proceeded to not do anything related to what the book outlined.
Yeah. Well, so I want you to know that, so my in-laws, who I love and I adore, and they're wonderful, and I had the same experience, right? Like my father-in-law would come along and the girls would be crawling, and any obstacle in their way, he's taking out of the way and like, right, and picking them up. Finally, I said to him, Jimmy, you're gonna raise them to be weak. Like clearly, you're gonna raise them to be weak. They're not gonna have the skills to live. Like I was very nice about it for a while, and he actually got it. Like he actually got, and now it's so funny because they didn't like Montessori. They didn't like they were in school so early, all that. They're paying for my niece to go because they see the results in the girls. They see the difference in how they are in the world and how confident and capable they are. Sometimes a little too confident, but you know, like, right? So I would keep educating, and I don't have a solution, right? Like that's a really, you have to know her, right? Yes. And I want to share something. I'm not advocating that you have your kids go out and throw a fit in public. What I'm recommending is that you give them plenty of space when they're home and they're safe with you, because when they come home is when they're safe, and that all that gets to come out. because if they don't have a safe place to put that and a safe place for it to come out, then that's when it comes out randomly, right? So it's actually constructing, and I'm not saying that if they're young and they're having melting down in Target, right, that, you know, you're not going to have that sometimes, but actually what I have found to be true is that actually once, it's like you, okay, when you are carrying something, once you've processed it, you don't have to carry it anymore. So it doesn't have to come out at work. It doesn't have to come out at the Target cashier who's snippy or whatever, right? Because you've had it come up and out. What Hannah is talking about is giving them a safe place and the tools so that that actually can come up and out safely, and you can absolutely teach them those skills of how they carry themselves to be safe. So what does it take to actually create a Montessori home? You have to set up I'm going to give you some principles here, right? So you're going to set up for real independence. Today, Chris was talking, she works here, and she's new to Montessori conversation, and she's got a 3rd grader and a 1st grader, and they planned out the menu for dinner. She took them to the store, they shopped for all the ingredients, they paid, they went home, they made the meal, right? Now, it was macaroni and cheese, hot dogs, lettuce with carrots on it, which they called a salad, right? And rinsed some raspberries. And they made dinner, right? They did the whole thing. They had independence in the whole process, and they cleaned up, right? So can you imagine how they felt after they did that? Like, right? They owned the world. Let's be clear that you're doing this for them. This is a gift that you're giving them when you give them the opportunity to be that independent, okay? And we'll look at some ways to do that as we move through. Clarity of expectations. Somebody was talking about you're at home and the child is not operating within the framework. Part of what happens is we as parents can be very wishy-washy on our expectations, right? Get clear on what the expectations are in the home, and then you always are operating within that framework. That's the beauty. Now, there's room for big emotions in the home. There's room for connection. You're partnering with them for their development. They know that. That's a part of your conversation with them ever since they're little. They're in charge of keeping themselves safe. So all of those expectations are clear in the home. Part of what I would recommend if you are in a 2-parent household, that you go home and you do talk about long-term values, because I find if you have alignment around that, the other conversations get easier, right? If you can we know we want a child who's independent, financially responsible, whatever it is. So we're moving towards that. That actually allows you to move in partnership much easier, right? Because then it doesn't mean that you're going to agree on everything. Certainly my husband and I have, that's actually that's where our couple has breakdowns, is around parenting, still, as a team. Now, some of you come to that naturally. My husband and I do not. We need the structure, right? Okay, so clarity of expectations, okay? And if you're working on teaching kindness to your child, right, kindness has to be modeled in the home. If you're working on teaching, if you want your child to have self-control has to be modeled. That does not mean that you can't ever mess up. 2 nights ago, I was so tired and so irritable. And basically, what we do in our house is it's an announcement. I am so irritable. Please, please, please leave me space right now because I know I'm awful, right? Right? And my girls then start doting on me. I'm like, could you dote on me when I'm not awful? Right? But anyway, they're like, we do, Mom, we do. Anyway, so there's an acknowledgement of it rather than you get to come through the house like this force, because you're bigger. You're bigger, you're older, everything you say matters. So if you come through like with this force of negativity and there's no ownership around it, no taking responsibility, that's what they're learning. You can't ask them to be responsible and we're not responsible ourselves. Does that make sense? So clarity of expectation, purposeful work. There must, in a Montessori home, be ways for the child to have purpose and purposeful work, period. They must have, and we don't call, just so you know, in our house, we don't call them chores. We call them contributions. Because I like saying to them, like last night I got home and I said, so what have your contributions today been? Which is a nice, much nicer question than what chores have you done, right? How are you contributing to the family? The expectation for each of the girls is that they come home and they at least contribute in 2 ways after school. And we've talked about, you know, we have family meeting. For those of you with older children, we have a family meeting session. We're not going to talk about it today, but I really recommend that for once they're in elementary. That really works well because you can work through those pieces there. Does that make sense? Okay, so giving them purposeful work. How are there are no jobs for princes or princesses anymore. If you're raising your child as an accessory and they are not helping around the house, they are learning how to grow up in a way that actually is not of service to them. There's only one Meghan Markle, right? There's only princess. Anybody who got a job as princess. I don't think she's actually that happy about it now, quite frankly, but that's a whole other story. Opportunities to fail. They need opportunities to fail. I'm showing you this one. Okay, this little girl's gathering eggs, right? She can drop them all, right? That kind of thing. But this one, so this is Georgie. She got out the salt, and I said, can I just take a picture of you doing that? I should have videoed it, because I knew it was going to go everywhere. So what did I do? Right. If I had said to her, honey, the salt's going to go everywhere, don't do that, what did I do? I thought for her. I did her thinking for her. My house would be cleaner if I did that. But she then spilled salt everywhere, and then she went and got the vacuum cleaner, and she cleaned, and then she tried to eat the egg, and the egg was awful because it had salt all over it, and now she uses the other salt shaker because she had the opportunity to learn that. How many times are we taking away their opportunities to fail because we kick in, right? So much of our job is preparing the environment and then biting our tongue, right? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Oh, wait, here we go. You're gonna be our first microphone user, Courtney. Okay.
So recently my son, who's just turned 2 years old, we want him to use our ceramic plates with us again so he can learn to be careful with the materials in the home.
Mm-hmm.
He started banging the plate on the table, and this morning when he was bringing it to the breakfast table, he started banging on this like little window in the door leading to the dining room.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of thinking, like, where do I intervene? Because one, he needs to know there are consequences of this. If you start banging things,
Yep.
it's going to break. But at
Yep.
the same time, like, it's probably not great if I let it break in his hands. I'm not sure.
Yep.
I kind of
Great
took it
question.
from him.
Yep.
But at the same time, I'm not really sure where to let him have that opportunity to fail.
Yep.
And it breaks, and then
Yep.
now's the time to clean it up versus
Yep.
sharps, you know?
Perfect. Perfect question. And he needs a lesson on how to carry the plates. Yeah. And I'm gonna give you a lesson on how to give a lesson. Okay? So that's perfect, because that's what we do in the Montessori environment, right? Everything is a lesson, right? There are sometimes, like with the egg, like you can't think of every possible lesson, right? And you choose when is the times you're going to let it go and when are you going to give a lesson. The plates for a 2-year-old, that's a lesson. Does that make sense? Okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't speak to that. Purpose greater than self. I really sincerely believe that if children do not learn how to be of service in the community, they miss a sensitive period for it and they do not incorporate it into their lifetimes. We have to have our children learn to be of service beyond our families, in the school community, in your church community, in your greater neighborhood, wherever it is, but they need to, it's a skill that they must learn, and it used to be 30 years ago that everyone was volunteering and making organizations work. It was part of the culture. We've moved away, we've become a very individualized, what is in it for me culture, right? Very easy to do. We have to support our children in getting into the greater purpose, okay? The school has opportunity for that with the Grounds Day. Highly recommend you come to Grounds Day. The children get to dig and plant and build and all of that, right? And we can take them really like all the way through, and you do it with them, and it's beautiful. And I highly recommend looking at how to build that into your life on a consistent basis. And partnership and training. So our children must have our partnership and training in their growing up, right? And so we can't say to them, you know, just use the saw, right? This is one of our students. See, she's got on her Greenspring shirt. But she's learning to saw with it. I don't even know. That's sanding. That's something that I have not ever had a lesson on. But anyway, this is my father with Georgie when she was little, right? Using the hammer, learning, right? Having those skills and building. This is Drew, Shani Nelson's daughter. She's literally doing the tiling in the bathroom, right? All the things I don't know how to do, but it's amazing what they're capable of in partnership and training, and how then they can be a contribution. And it takes you doing it together. They have to learn it from you, right? Or from grandparent, or from a neighbor, or from, right? So if things are not working, remember, does the child have the skill and the ability? Children do well if they can. Very important that you ask, do they have the skill? Here are a few lessons, ideas. This is just to get your brain percolating about what could be a lesson, okay? How to wait patiently for somebody to speak, for a chance to speak, right? How many of you are don't tell me, I don't want to know. Letting your child come up and they're like, you're in a conversation, they come up and they start talking and you give them your attention right then, right? I want you to know that for their lifetime, they're going to think that that's okay. That they can come up and start talking, and that they're the center of the universe, right? And that it doesn't matter that this person is already in the conversation, right? So you teach the skill. In our house, when they were little, now they can wait, they would put the hand on the elbow or hand on the shoulder. I would touch to acknowledge, I know you're there. I would finish the conversation. I would take a long time to finish the conversation because I want my children to have delayed gratification and know how to be patient. And then I would say, thank you so much for your patience. What can I help you with? Often, they would go find another solution, right? Okay? How to get someone's attention? Gracefully, right? What does that look like? How to answer the phone properly? Do our children have phone skills? How to ask somebody something from a stranger? We don't say don't talk to strangers, right? The truth is we talk to strangers all the time. What we say is you're responsible for keeping yourself safe. I am an advocate for sharing with children what is true in the world. My girls know that there's sex trafficking. My girls know that people will try to steal children. My girls are aware of these things. They've known since they were very little, not because, and they're not burdened by it, it's having them be aware of what is happening in the world so that they can have an awareness out. It does not do them any service to protect them from these concepts because let's face it, they're living a charmed life here, right? And they have to be conscious, okay? Manners to use in a restaurant. You may have different manners at home. What are the expectations in a restaurant? You can practice those at home, right? How to walk through the living room. That's just an example. If you have running in your house, right? We have running in our house. I don't have a problem with running in the house, except for I have certain areas there's no running through the kitchen, right? Somebody might have a knife. But you may have different rules. Clarity of expectations and teaching the lesson. How to carry a knife, right? Like, does that make sense? it's just to wet your whistle. There are obviously thousands of lessons. How to give a lesson. Okay, we're going to give a lesson now. Okay, so we're going to have a lesson on how, that was good, how to carry a chair. Okay, so when you're giving a lesson, you've identified that your child has an area of need, right? And for example, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll take this one. I'll take this one. Okay, so for example, in Montessori, we carry chairs, okay? So every time you're giving a lesson, you're gonna do it exactly the same way. And you're gonna move, especially for those of you, now Liz, you have older children, but for those of you with younger children, you're gonna want to do it very slowly and precisely. As they get a little older, they can watch. And you don't want to speak if they're under the age of 5 while you're giving the lesson, because they're acquiring language and they will focus on your mouth and not on what you're doing, okay? You want to have point of interest. So whatever it is, it may be if it's a toothbrush, if it's turning on the handle, you're going to pull their attention to where you want them to be focused. Does that make sense? Okay? So Marina, can I use you? Okay. So this is how I'm going to approach her. I'm going to do it the same way every time. I'm going to give you a lesson on how to carry a chair. Now, I'm not saying, I am giving you a lesson, you little stinker, because you, right? Like there's none of that energy. Now, I know you don't say that, but you say it in your tone, right? Like it's, I'm giving you a lesson. No, this is like, I'm inviting you for an ice cream sundae, right? I'm going to give you a lesson on how to carry a chair. I'll have a turn and then you'll have a turn, okay? Notice I didn't say, do you want to come to a lesson? Right? Like, no. I'm going to give you a lesson. You're getting the keys to the kingdom, right? So we're going to come over here, right? You guys are all going to have a chance to do this. You think it's easy, but now. Right? I'm so proud of myself. You don't actually have to do it in front of everybody, okay? Where's the point of interest? Did you see the point of interest? Right? I pulled the attention to the hands. Notice it was slower than you would have thought, right? Like it's not, you don't rush through it. You want them to have the, and for the, it's like a Zen mindful meditation activity, okay? And then they have a turn to do it. When they're doing it, are you saying, now here's the thing, no, you don't do it like that. No, you're gonna just not say anything. You're just gonna, and they're gonna get to try it and see what it's like, right? And have the opportunity. Then if you need to represent, you represent after. But you're not coaching them during, because what you're doing is taking their attention off what they're doing in the moment, and they can't process it coming at them. And have you ever had somebody do that to you? You're like they're trying to learn something, and they're like coaching you the whole time, and you're like, just stop talking. Let me think about it, right? So you don't want to be that. Does that make sense? Okay. So now you have a tool when you need to give a lesson. Now, another everyday message, you can do hard things. We say that. You can do hard things. Now, what happens then when you try to help them with something later, they say, like my youngest just said to her, Papu, stop trying to help me. I can do hard things. Like, yes, victory, right? You can do hard things. You matter and you make a difference. So many children are coming up now thinking that actually their work doesn't matter. They're not in there's no kind of meaning connected to the work, right? If you're given a worksheet, if somebody else is doing it for you, you don't realize that how much it matters for you, right? You make a difference. So, what are the everyday messages your child's getting from you? And are there other messages you'd rather them be receiving? I'm going to keep moving, but I'm going to ask you to actually reflect on that. Like, what are the messages you're sending? If you're rescuing them, What's the message they're getting there? Right? The truth is you have things that are frustrating for you and you take a break and you come back to them. Right? It's just honoring the process, right? And if it's something that you're really stretching to learn. Now, one of the things I highly recommend talking to your children about is growth versus fixed mindset. So that they know, right, there's this great, it's a book, it should have been an article, but it's a book on growth versus fixed mindset, came out of Stanford. Basically, students, people who grow up with a fixed mindset tend to be people actually with higher IQs. They've been told they're smart. Don't tell your children they're smart. Focus on their heart, their work ethic, right? If they hear they're smart from the time they're little, they don't want anybody to figure out that they're not as smart as they think they are, and they will not challenge themselves, tend to not take risks. They think that if they make a mistake, it defines them as a person, and they're worried about making those mistakes, so they don't take risks in life. So people who actually achieve more are people who have growth mindset, who see that every mistake is actually an opportunity for learning, and we embrace the mistakes, right? So we talk about that at home. In fact, we had a conversation about it 2 days ago. So Georgia, we were in the car, we were dropping my oldest daughter off at a school that I didn't know how to get back here, right? And Georgie was navigating, and she put in Greenspring, Baltimore. So we started going, right? And so she really shut down, and it was perfect opportunity. And like we went out of our way and all of that, and it's a mistake. So what'd you learn? It's a great opportunity to learn. If you shut down every time you make a mistake, if you make yourself bad and wrong, then you won't take any risks, and then you can't grow to your greatest self. So what did you learn? Right? Like, that's the question. There's no make wrong in it. Does that make sense? Okay, so what are the everyday messages your child is getting from you? Is it stop, wait, it's you're not going to keep yourself safe? Is it what? And maybe you have great messages. I'm certain your children are hearing, I love you, we're kind in this family, right? Those things. And I apologize to my oldest because I didn't have hand in hand. I didn't know about big emotions. I still thought that if you had a big emotion, you separated the child. If my husband tried to separate me when I had a big emotion, you know what I would say? Right? Like, how do we think that's appropriate for children? Oh, you're having a meltdown, go to your room. Right? So, yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. No, actually, and it works for all people. If they're having a meltdown, take care of them. They need more TLC, right?
I noticed my parents, like, my mom would try to distract my child. Oh, look at this thing over
Right.
here.
That's a big one,
I know
right.
it's not going to work to fight with her about it in that moment.
Right.
But like that,
Right.
You know, when you say worthy challenges, experiencing your own difficult emotions is a worthy challenge.
And how are they going to learn to navigate them? How are they going to learn to ever process big emotions if we don't give them the opportunity and we don't make it okay? And for ourselves too, right? So, okay, all right. So, guidelines for a Montessori home. So the first thing, foster a sense, so these are the principles. I'm going to fly through these and then I'm going to get to the photos of the rooms, okay? You want to have a sense of independence. Thoughtful space for the child in every room of the house, okay? Every room in the house, they spend time. You do not have to have children have access to every room in the house, right? Okay? A place for everything and everything in its place. There is not a big bin of toys that they shove everything in because, okay, if you have something valuable, do you shove it in a bin with a bunch of other stuff? No, you take care of it. Like, you put it in a place where it's thoughtfully organized, right? I'll show you pictures of each space with this. Aesthetically pleasing. Your child's space should not be cluttered up with a bunch of Barney pictures, or I know none of you are doing that, but like I'm amazed by, because really they're learning their sense of aesthetics from us and from their environment. Put up a Monet, put up a Matisse, put up something beautiful that inspires you. Put up something from your culture, right? It shouldn't be, we're dumbing it down for them, because they're learning what's beautiful from their environment. Developmentally appropriate. If things are out on the shelves and like in their playroom or the space that they use for that, and they're dusty, get them out of there. Don't keep out a bunch of stuff they're not using, just like your closet. You only keep what you need, right? All of us. Natural sensorial rich materials. Unless you have a waterwork, right? You do not want to have a bunch of plastic stuff. Now, Legos, like I know there's stuff that you have to have Legos, right? But you have to have some things in a home. But you want to have natural materials for them to work with. You want to have nice baskets. You want it to be texturally, that's not a word, texturally, feel good to them and inspire them, okay? Designed for independent success. Every part of the house designed for their independent success to the level that's possible, and allowing for purposeful work, okay? So, creating access in the kitchen, okay? For the littles, this is not my space, but I really like this, that they have things out. Now, for snacks, I recommend only having out foods that you're happy if they just eat that, right? So I would only have out fruit and vegetables. Don't put out goldfish. They'll eat all the goldfish, and then they won't eat any dinner, and goldfish have no nutritional value, okay? They have chopping board, so they can do all of this is accessible for them on their own. They can reach it, right? Utensils. Can your children reach everything that they need to set the table? Are they using real cutlery? Right? Those kind of things. Dustpan and broom, laundry basket. Now this is great. You also, what they don't have here is a big stack of rags. I went out and I got cheap rags, and I even cut them in half, and we have a huge thing of rags so that they can always clean up after themselves. Spray bottle, all of it is accessible to them. Is there a broom their size? Is there a mop their size? Can they take care of things themselves? Does that make sense? Okay. And can they get up? Like, for example, we didn't ever have a high chair. That's not true. Until she was about 9 months, she had a high chair, like where it was attached to the table. She could get in and out by herself, and she would use the stool to get up on her so that she could get to the table, right? Here, he can get up and down by himself to access the sink. He has full access in the kitchen. Does that make sense? Okay. Getting involved, having opportunities for them to be involved. And even at this little age, like here, I think she's a year, she can clean up her own space. Now, do I have to clean it afterwards? Yes, 100%. I do that when they're not looking, right? So they have the sense of ownership. But access to sponge, access to, here she's in the learning tower and she's, right, cooking oatmeal. She knows all of that she had access to. She could reach the milk, she could reach the oatmeal, she could reach all of it herself. Okay? And here, eggs in a basket. Any questions about the kitchen? Neither. Sure. This one? Okay. Now, in the other thing, I just talked about this, but make sure that they have a broom, that they have, these are great little knives, these plastic knives, right? So that they can cut, that she's actually cutting celery with it. There's no reason that they can't do those kind of things, right? Even the little ones. And set up for independence. I highly recommend, now this is for most of you, you're beyond this stage, but having a space in the kitchen area where they can work without having to be up at adult height, and they can eat. Like my daughter and I, when I stayed home with her, we ate at this table all the time. I had a cushion on the floor, and when Christos came home, we all ate at the family table, right? But mostly we ate where she could get up and down by herself, and I didn't have to strap her in, so she could learn self-discipline, self-control, how to stay at the table. She could get up and down on her own. She could be, right, have all that independence. Here, notice they also have water. Water access is really important, and they can set the table, right? However it works for you. I like this because they didn't have a space. She put a shelf in her kitchen to give access, right? Okay? If they haven't had a lesson. I want you to know, so here's the thing. Now, I don't have fancy stuff, okay? I go to Marshall's, I buy white plates, and if you came to my house for dinner, it's a very good chance that there'd be 3 different kinds of patterns out, right? It's not my thing. My thing is letting my children have access. You know, we still break stuff in our house. We move, and we've been talking about it at family meeting. How do we slow down? Because it's not just my kids. Like, the adults are flying through there, right? So, you know, anyway. So the bedroom. For those of you with infants, we do recommend in Montessori a floor bed so that they're not in, if you think about what a crib is, if you're looking out from a crib, it has bars, and you're trapping the child in the space. So it doesn't allow for independence. So if they wake up, they can't actually get and go to their own stuff and be self-sufficient. You must put them in and out. Also, a nice space in the room to have reading. Notice here, and we'll get into this more, for this child, there are 5 toys out. 5 choices, okay? What I highly recommend, if you get nothing else out of today, that you get a bin and you put all the rest of it in the bin and you put it somewhere in your storage or in your basement or in your garage or wherever you can, or in the bottom of a closet, and you take out a few things. And as they get older, it can be more. It's however much they can clean up by themselves. That's your rule. If they can't clean it up by themselves, it's too much, right? And you put it out beautifully. And then you teach them how, then they take something out and then they put it away, one thing at a time. Now, my children, that has always been a struggle to take it all. I walk in, everything's out. And that's okay too, right? They take it all off the shelf, but they put it all back. That doesn't mean I don't help them. We had a little guy yesterday. He took somebody's toolbox out in the outdoor environment and he hid it. And then he didn't want to help. And I just said, let's do it together. I took his hand. We went over together. It was no big thing. He picked it up. He did it. But just the process of, wasn't going to say, you're going to go do that. Like, right, as soon as you go to power struggle, it's over, right? Independence in the bedroom. Can they choose what they wear to school? Yes, right? You're in Montessori now. I want you to know, we know who dresses themselves. We celebrate it. And if you see my girls come in with some of their concoctions, right? Like that's part of their self-expression. Where in their lives do they get to self-express? Now, I had a mom who was a fashion magazine editor lady, and she's like, nope. I said, okay, great. So in your world, you get to pick a couple things, and they can pick from those. She would lay out outfits that they could pick from. So there was still choice, but letting them pick, right? I will tell you, when my oldest was young, you know how those little baby socks are, like I lose them in the wash. I'd be so proud of myself when I had a matching set. She'd take them apart and choose one of each. Right? Totally okay. Okay? Giving them choice, and do they have access? Can they reach? Socks, underwear, t-shirts, pants, right? What are the choices? And it's all at their height. Okay, the bathroom. Okay, you have access now. Most faucets now don't come out far enough. They do have these kind of things that make the water come forward. Soap, I recommend that you put 1/3 soap for little ones and 2/3 water. That way, if they squirt a couple times, no big deal, right? And have a squirter in the bathtub so that they can squirt as much as they want and get that out of their system, right? Have a spray bottle in the bathtub so they can spray as much as they want. That way, when they're working with them in a different area, they're not so inclined towards it, using it differently. Toilet training, highly recommend having a stool up to the toilet and having handles, and notice there's no faces on the toilet seat. Because what are we really teaching? I mean, like, really, it's so bizarre, right? Or they, you pee into it and it goes, wahoo, ah, what is that? Anyway, like that whole thing. So they have access. I'll show you this. Oh, I have another slide after that. If you don't have room in your bathroom to have a stool so the child can wash their hands at the sink, set up somewhere right outside the door, wherever, so they can wash their hands without you holding them up to the sink. They have to be independent. Early toileting. So my bathroom, this is my old bathroom. It was so small I couldn't fit all of this in here, but giving them access so that they had, these are dirty rags, clean rags. We had underwear in there, books, right? So they're fully set up so they can be independent. Okay? And the play area. So this is for an older child, so there's more out, right? The other thing is, are there those of you who have like a lot of stuff out in your playroom right now? I just want to see if it's worth having the conversation. Okay. Will you turn that down 1 degree? I don't know if you guys are hot, but I'm warm. So what I recommend, if you actually want some time where they're engaged in their playroom, you go change out the materials, right? If you have out 6 things, and when I was taking classes, I'd need time to work on a Saturday on my coursework, and I would change out the shelves. And I got an hour and a half, 2 hours easy, because everything's new again. You rotate it. That way, also, you're not spending so much money on new stuff and just sticking it on top of the other stuff, right? Our children have so much stuff already. So part of what we know now is external order. Their sense of external order actually builds internal discipline. So you just gave her that ability to mirror that and build that internally. That's beautiful. A place for them to sit where they can reach, right? A place to write. When they're writing, this is a big piece. You want their knees to come out and their feet to be flat on the floor, not crossed, right? So part of what happens is we put them learning, when they're learning to write, in really bad positions for it, and they build bad habits, okay? So what's nice is those desks that adjust so that the height can go up as they grow. IKEA actually has one now, or they did. The entryway, okay? Having a space in the entryway where they can, I like having a mirror. This is our old space. A mirror so they could blow their nose on the way out the door, right? And put on their hat, and they have a space that they can reach to hang their coats. Where does their backpack go? You have a set, a set place for everything. And, sorry, and a stool to sit on. Where do the shoes supposed to go? These are mittens, right? Where does at home a place for everything and everything in its place, okay? I want you to know, we had this was years ago, we had a little girl, she was 4, and she told her mom that she could not possibly hang up her things when she got home because she was way too tired. So the mom and I had a conversation. I was like, great, so she's tired. Totally get that. You put a chair by the door. She can sit in that chair until she is not tired anymore, and she can put her stuff away. Like she's not in trouble. She's telling you she has a need. So the mom went home and said, oh my gosh, I figured it out. We're gonna set you up, right? No power struggle. We're gonna meet your need. You need to have a seat when you come in the house. So we're gonna put a chair right there. Her mom said that she walked in the first day, she looked at the chair, she hung up her bag, it was done. Never used the chair once. But it was because it wasn't, oh yes, you are gonna, right? Like it was, what's the need? She met the need. Outdoors, okay? Our children need to spend time outside. Must, must, must. And there are lots of great ways for them to be involved. We actually do, I wish we farmed out I really do. I wish somebody else did our yard work because it takes time, but it's really good for the children. They need to be involved. So C at this point is mowing the lawn, right? And we do the weeding together, and it gives us something where we can see the results all together. Other people may not have that, but I highly recommend, like when you have to go out and shovel the snow, your children need to be with you. Please never, ever, ever, ever have them again inside on a screen or playing while you're out doing the work of the house. It's their work too, it's their house too, right? They come out. Now, they may not get much done, right? It's not like but they're a part of the process, okay? And giving them access outdoors to things that, like, so that they can actually plant and participate, okay? Oh, I got that. The car. We spend a lot of time in the car now. The car needs to be a prepared environment too, right? It needs to have a place to have books. It needs to have a garbage. It needs to have a water space, like whatever that looks like for you, okay? So that your child can actually have that environment as well. And then the playground and beyond. So we already talked about the playground. I really feel like the playground also is part of your environment, and going to it and having the consciousness of using it as a learning tool for the children. And you decide what your intention is when you go to the playground. If your intention is it's about you, then you can do it however you want. But if it's actually about your child having the experience, then you want to think about how you're operating there. And giving them a chance to fail. So when my daughter was 2, my oldest, we went to a playground we'd never been to, and she was playing with a friend, and they were both 2 years old, and they went up on this big high structure. And I said to Sia, and it was probably about here, you please make sure you keep yourself safe. And I turned and I said one thing to the other person, and she jumped off of the high structure down onto the mulch. I didn't catch her, right? You guys are horrified, right? She survived. She never did it again. She learned her lesson, and she's an incredibly conscientious person now who goes through life with a lot of awareness, right? Sometimes they're gonna have to fall, right? Now, I didn't love that my child jumps off. Like, it was that, you know, I was pretty freaked out, and it was also okay, right? And she learned a good lesson, yeah. Contributing members of the home, right? So that's the piece we want to hit. Care of other living things. Even if you don't have a pet, we don't have a pet. We don't need anything else to take care of in our house, but we have a lot of plants, right? And the children take care of the plants. Having them have the opportunity to contribute meaningfully to keeping something alive, okay? And then here's just some chore options, okay? So for 2 to 3-year-olds, I'm not going to read all these. If you want to take a picture, you're welcome to. They can contribute as early. What Dr. Montessori said is if they can walk, they can work. Okay? I fully agree with that. Here's the thing, okay? This is a philosophy piece. I think we are doing a disservice to our children by trying to, and not everybody does this, but many parents are raising them to be treated like everything is supposed to be fun all of the time. It's not a service to them. Life is not fun all of the time. In fact, meaningfulness often comes out of perseverance and it being hard and it being challenging, and that's where we actually develop our worth and our value as human beings. It's not out of the fun. So we want to make sure that we're not focused on fun over these contributions. I love this because this is Margaret's daughter. She started washing the car, and her daughter got out her and started washing her car. So, cleaning up after themselves. This is a mess that she spilled the dog food all over. Notice she has a crumber. Again, she's set up with the equipment, and she can sweep, she can mop, she can water the plants, she can help cook, right? When they get to be 4 to 6, they can really they can make their own beds, they can make their own snacks, they can put their own, and I would actually say about 6, they can start helping do all the laundry. There's no reason to wait. Let's not argue for their incompetence, right? Making simple meals, eggs and oatmeal and such. I think you said 3, right? Right on. Vacuuming, assisting. It's nice to have them to start to sew at that age. They really enjoy it. They can mend. They can darn socks. They can, when they have a hole in their pants, they can learn how to sew that, right? Learning to use a stove. Chores for 7 to 9-year-olds. Complicated meals. I would even say beyond pancakes or scrambled eggs. I think they're much more competent than that. Clean their bedroom. Pack lunches. The girls actually Sia packs lunches for everybody because she's supportive of us all that way. Responsible for recycling. Doing the dishes. Okay. Actually, in our house, the girls are responsible for fixing things when they break, because my husband and I do not have that skill set. And so literally they'll get out, they have their own toolbox, right? We keep it upstairs. They do all the building stuff. They have since Sia was probably about 8, anything from IKEA, that's their job. Okay, so sewing projects, we talked about this. Using the washer and dryer, sorting and folding the laundry. Both the girls now keep their laundry in their own rooms, and they're responsible for doing their own laundry, right? Unloading the dishwasher, walking the dog. Cleaning as they get older. Here's the thing. These have to get, expand. You can't have them doing the same thing. The projects need to be bigger, right? And they have to start using tools for them to still be engaged. So, did you guys get all this? Okay. Now, you also have to give them a chance to make choices, okay? I want you to know I'm proving to you. Okay, this is she's bringing up the garbage cans. So she managed to get one on top of the other. Now, look at her face. She's like, poor me. It's like, that's an interesting method that you use to bring up the garbage cans, right? But she had the choice. I wasn't going to talk her out of it. She wore this to Target. I just want you to know. And it's not something I care. I'm not attached. She can wear that to Target. She can be fully self-expressed. That allows her to have the opportunity to be fully self-expressed. And she needs it as a human being. So it's just an example, giving them choices every week. So one of the things that we did because their grandmother, like for us, first of all, I don't know, Georgie's haircut right now, like she gets called a boy all the time. I celebrate that because then I feel like I'm breaking through some of those barriers, okay? And her grandmother tells her to be a little lady, right? So part of what we talk about is what society says a lady does is X, Y, Z. You get to choose who you're going to be.
Yeah, I will say I find like for a girl, right, there's more like a tomboy or like being praised. Like,
Right.
oh, like dress, like go ahead.
Yeah.
Like for a boy, it's like, oh,
yeah.
and then like the Good Morning American thing, like ballet,
Oh,
and all of it in my community.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like celebrating, like the little girl was wearing amazing shoes.
yeah,
Right? Like the little boy is wearing mommy heels. Right?
yeah,
And then my mother-in-law would be like,
yeah, yeah,
what are you trying to do? So
yeah,
I think I'm just raising this all to say, like, I'm so glad to hear
yep.
what that looks like.
Well, and I want you to know, so we had a little boy wear a dress to school for a number of years here. He came in, he's grown his hair long, he's worn a dress, he still wants to be a he, right? He painted his nails. Great. That's his self-expression, right? He gets to choose. And but that's, each family has to navigate that, right? How they manage that. For us at Montessori, we embrace all of it. We want all of it. We want children to have access to who they are in that way. And for my daughter, it means wearing a face mask to Target, right? Like, and it looks different for every child, right? Yeah. Okay. And traveling. Traveling is a great opportunity for your children to show independence. Both my girls took the airplane alone at age 5, right? That was a rite of passage for them. I see you guys. I promise you it's a good thing. Actually, Georgie ended up getting to be on the flight when she turned 6 by herself on the way home in Southwest. She stood up and the whole plane sang to her, happy birthday. Okay, so she was like, thought she hung the moon. Give them, Sia, who's 14 now, just took the train up to Connecticut by herself, right? Got to give them opportunities to build that independent muscle. Now, she doesn't even have a cell phone. I don't believe in that, because they've shown the rates when kids get cell phones, just so you know, depression skyrockets 50% higher, anxiety skyrockets 50% higher. It's ridiculous, right? So she said she's the only one in high school who doesn't have a cell phone, right? So she's going up there. She has her pepper spray, her self-defense class. She's aware, and she was completely comfortable, right? And completely safe. They have to have opportunities to build those muscles away from you. You are not going to be there all the time, right? For when they're little, it may be letting them go up and pay by themselves. You still have your eye on them, but giving them those chances to actually put those pieces on themselves. And she's coming back from a trip here. I just want you to notice the hat, okay? Summer hat, middle of the winter, on the airplane, right? Walking our talk. And these guys are actually navigating where to go on the subway by themselves. Starting about age 6, your children can navigate the airport. We get off the airplane. My husband and I don't say a word. We say, okay, where are we going? They can be in charge. That's a great way to start. Oh, where's baggage claim? Okay, where's baggage claim, right? Giving them the opportunity to lead these excursions, like actually Meg's already doing it with him planning excursions. Travel is a great way for them to start building that muscle as well, okay? All right, and that is it. Thank you. I know this was a long session. We got caught with a lot of questions at the beginning, and I really appreciate you giving your time to this. We love being in this conversation with you. Thank you for partnering with us.